Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm really pleased. I can't imagine a better kind of day of being among friends and talking about Spiritism. And I was reminded when we first started, Anna and I, we started together. And we used to spend the whole night, sometimes half of the day, talking about Spiritism because we were that excited about it. And I think today has been one of these days because there are different points of view, and it's wonderful. I mean, for me, Spiritism is a way of salvation. It brought purpose to my life, and I love sharing it. We are going to talk today about a Spiritist view of mediumship and healing. This is becoming relevant because we've already seen what Spiritism is. But the point that I like to make is that healing and mediumship is the cornerstone of Spiritism, is the practical side of it. Without this work, Spiritism would be just this wonderful philosophy and science. But this makes all the difference. This makes the practical side of what we learn, how we put ourselves to the test, and how we improve ourselves. So that's, this is very, very special. Although this is very important to Spiritism, really the cornerstone of it. It has not started with Spiritism. It started when mankind stood up and a soul was put in us, and from the very beginning, healing and mediumship has already existed. The thing that Spiritism did, and Kardec and the Spirits, was to explain to us what it means. How does its power come from? How can we use it in a practical and clear way? Took it away from the temples where it had been hidden by a few initiates back in Egypt and Mesopotamia and all that, and brought to everyone, so everyone can understand there is no mysteries, there is nothing that's supernatural. Anyway, mediumship and healing. One of the things is part of the oracles and everything, and also it's also been part of the literature of humanity throughout the ages. And you can see there that it said that healing came to Egypt from Atlantis. And it was Samos who lived in Egypt for a long time, learning the mysteries of Egypt, and he took it to Greece. It's written in the school of Alexandria, and you find several examples of it within the Gospels in the Old Testament, and you can see there what it is. So we learn from Spiritism that is a natural phenomenon explained, and it's nothing supernatural, it's part of us. So to what Kardec says in the Prolegomena, the introduction of the Spirit's book, he says the communication between the spiritual world and the corporeal world is in the nature of things and has nothing supernatural. It can be found among all nations, in every age, and now becoming general and evident to all. The spirits assure us that time appointed to providence for a universal manifestation of their existence has now come, the new era of regeneration for the human race. And I think what you've seen and heard today, we can see that we are really at this moment. Even though sometimes can appear very sad and very depressing, but that is wonderful. The world is beautiful, and that is great future for all of us. So, to understand about mediumship and healing, who is a medium? A medium is an intermediate person between the spiritual world and the corporeal world, between the spirits and men. As Kardec says in the question 159 of the Medium's book, Kardec asks, who is a medium? And what the Spirit says, that anyone who feels in any way the influence of spirits, is a medium. So if we think that we are all, absolutely all, involved by what Paul called, we are surrounded by a cloud of witnesses, we are all mediums because we are all influenced by the spirits. But we give the term medium to that person who has a more ostensive, in which the mediumship appears much more open, so we use the term, but in reality we are all mediums. There are many, many types of mediumship. There is the physical, hearing, those who are able to hear, the clairvoyant, they can see, the trance, the writing mediums. But in the healing mediums, and this is very important, because a healer is first and foremost a medium. So we have a mediumship, we have intuition, all of us have intuition, so we are mediums. And in the healing mediums are those who have the ability to cure by the laying of hands, sometimes by a gesture, a look. And as André Luiz, also in one of the André Luiz books, one of the Chico Xavier books, says, if we added prayer, we can achieve miracles. So, now, one of the most important things about mediumship and healing, and it's very common. I mean, in England, they have a great tradition of healers, don't we, Janet? We have a very great number of great healers in the, Harry Edwards, just to mention one, who has a centre in Surrey. So it's very, very important in this country, and they have great healers here. So healing is very, very important here and everywhere. But what in many ways we differ, not totally, is that for Spiritism, healing and mediumship has to be free. Basically, healing and mediumship is not a profession. It's not for you to be dedicated to healing and earn money from it. To Spiritism, it's a gift of grace that is given to us to help others so we can help ourselves. This is very, very important, and in this we differ, in Spiritism we differ sometimes from many other different people, that we don't work for money in our mediumship, we give for free what we receive for free. So here is a view of Spiritist view of healing, is as says in the Gospel of St. Matthew, in which Jesus tells us to heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead, cast out devils. Freely ye have received, freely give. That's the base that Spiritism does healing and mediumship. So I think this is very, very important. Of course, Jesus was the greatest healer of all, and we see so many passages. And here is the one that he saves the little girl, and which is a beautiful passage, and the whole passage actually of the gospel, for him to come to that, is really, really beautiful as well. So I just got some themes here. He was healing the blind man, and in the gospels there are 3 different items of him healing a blind person. This is the one that he actually gets some of the clay from the floor and he spits on it and puts in the person's eye, and that is the other one that he just heals them. I think the blind man of Jericho, I think it's called in the Gospels. So this is probably one of those that he puts his hands and you see, that's the other healing. And I absolutely love those pictures. I just think it's so wonderful. And here is another as well, a famous painting, actually, this one. And then, well, sorry, I jumped very quick. through these things. But I think one thing that is very, very important for us to think in relation to free mediumship and to understand how this really is important. When Jesus comes to the temple and he sees a lot of people selling stuff in the temple, he gets very angry and he says, "This is it written that the house of my Father will be known in all nations as a house of prayer, and you have made it a den of thieves." And he throws everything out and everything. And I think this is very good for us to keep, because for him, healing is that. So for a person to be a truly healer, you don't need to be a very, very great healer, because there is many differences in healing, in the healers as well. It starts from the magnetic power in the body that we bring with us has a very different, some people have a lot, some people not so much, but as Emmanuel tells us, it goes to infinity, the amount of. So a person can give healing out of themselves, their own magnetic power, but if they heal 3-4 people, they probably be lying down because they're giving what they have of themselves. But when even those people, they are able to heal because the person may need, and they have spiritual friends who are there helping them. So when we pray, when we ask for God's help, when we are humble enough that we have some power within us that can be given, and we have a good intention of healing someone or helping, then the spiritual benefactors will come and help us. And the energy that will go through can be miraculous. I think one point that I like to make is that sometimes it's very confusing because people think healing means that you have to cure the person. You have to cure. Sometimes it's possible. Sometimes it can be done. But everything depends as well on the patient. I have had an experience that I was giving healing to someone and I could feel it bouncing back into my hands. I don't know if other people have this experience. So the person, for some reason, wasn't. And I was able to just pray and ask for it, and then eventually they did get it. So the person as well can reject your healing. They maybe not trust. Andrea Luiz, in the book, in the Domains of Mediumship, he's talking about this, asking, because they are in one place, and he sees that the person there does not receive the healing. I said, well, they don't trust, they don't really believe in it, that they're going to get anything out of it. So, it depends as well. Also depends on the person really needing to be healed. Because giving healing sometimes will not cure the physical problem that the person may have, but will help them emotionally. We'll give them that support they need. We'll give them that force and strength to cure themselves. And maybe even if they are to discarnate, that force will help them to make the passage to the next world. I think this is very important, because normally we associate healing with having to be cured. Get up. And of course Jesus could do that. Of course he could. But probably there are quite a few people that maybe didn't get cured. And it's interesting because I think in the little book, Jesus no Lar, Jesus at Home, there is a passage one night that Jesus did a lot of healing. But he's very upset, he's very sad. And one of the apostles come to him and said, Master, why are you so sad? You healed so many people today. You made so much. You did so much good. And he said, yes, that person who couldn't walk is now in a pub drinking. Because before he wasn't able to go and no one would take him. That woman who was blind, she is now punishing everybody who made her suffer. So I think sometimes we have to go beyond. Healing is something for our souls. It helps our body. Yes, it's energy pure energy, yes, but it's also for our soul, for our, to learn something from it. So I think this is very, very important. And I think one thing as well that is important, when we do courses and we do preparation for healing, we do a lot of courses at the British Union Spiritist Society and everything, in the groups as well. They all have healing courses. I think one thing that needs to, a medium, basically a healing, it has to have some humility, has to have desire to help, has to also work on themselves to be a better human being, which we all need that. But in a healer, it's most special that this is done, because André Luiz tells us that in the spiritual world, the most advanced spirits are the ones who work the hardest. And they do different jobs. They are everywhere, working everywhere. But those who are working as healers in the spiritual world, while they are working in the healing, they don't do any other work. They are completely dedicated. They study a lot. They try to learn a lot. They try to improve themselves. Even in the spiritual world, they do that. So I think it comes as an obligation if you want to be a healer. Because sometimes goodwill is not enough. We need to do something more. So will to help, a little work on ourselves, a little determination, a connection with the spiritual benefactors, open our hearts to really give lots of love, because it's a transfusion of energy. Healing, that's basically is a transfusion of energy. But if we put our love in it, if we put our heart in it, somebody said something, open your heart, I think it was in the suffering. If we open our heart, then it just involves everything. Even though you don't touch the person, they feel it. So, did you touch me? Because I feel it. Sometimes, and we are all of us, we can do that. It's not exclusive to anybody. Anyone can be a healer. Lots of love. Learning how the process works, because then if you know how the process works, it's easier to work with it. So we can all be healers and do the work of Jesus here on earth. So as we're talking about this, we're going to have a little demonstration. In Spiritism, normally we don't touch the person. There is no need for it, because the energy will go to the crown chakra, and the spiritual benefactors that working with us will guide where the healing will go. So there is no need for touching the person. In the healing that we do mostly in our Spiritist groups. Yeah? There are some different kinds of healing as well that are used in some places, but mostly that's how we work. So the healer will open their hearts and their minds for the help that comes, and the person will open his heart to receive as well. Yeah? So if we could all just for a moment quieten down and help the lady. Yes. Do you want to say something?
Thank you very much.